Assalamu alaikum guys. So I'm going to quickly share some thoughts in regards to Albert Camus and his views on the meaning of life. Now, he's one of the most prominent existentialist philosophers who spoke about meaning and what the meaning of life was, if any. Now, according to him, there was no ultimate meaning to life, right? This is what led to his view on the absurd. So his notion was that there is no ultimate meaning to life. Nihilism is the default position. Yet the human being cannot help but search for meaning, and therefore he finds himself, or she finds herself, in this constant struggle between knowing there is no ultimate meaning and still continuing to want to search for meaning. So at bottom, essentially, Camus' position was that there is no ultimate meaning to life, and therefore nihilism was the default. However, he did go on to share some other interesting ideas. By the way, this first point is where he was correct, so I would agree with him that in the absence of God, and it's important to mention this because most of these existentialists were atheists, in the absence of God and religion, there is no ultimate meaning. So he was correct. However, some of his other ideas, such as that when someone adopts religion for meaning, or to give their lives meaning, what they're giving up at the same time is now freedom, because now they're submitting to that religion and the dictates of that religion, and therefore they're not free to do what they want to do. Now, this isn't necessarily true, because from an Islamic perspective, for example, although Islam calls for submission, for one to submit themselves willingly to God, but there is a willingness here, there is a freedom to do this. And even once you do this, you have the freedom to choose every one of your actions going forward. So if you are going to align yourselves with what God has told you to do, for example, and he tells you to do something, say he tells you to do X. Now, for you to do X, you're not compelled to do X. You're still free to choose each one of your actions. So it's a free choice continuously in Islam. You're freely choosing to do what's right, and you're freely choosing not to do what's wrong. So you're not really giving up your freedom from this perspective. Everyone, and even outside of religion, you're constantly making such choices. You're constantly choosing to do something or not do something. So there is no difference there from this perspective, and therefore this breaks down this particular point. Yet another very interesting idea of what he referred to as the revolt, which was the idea that to find true happiness in life and contentment, one has to not find meaning, but has to go on the search for meaning. And that in itself, that search for meaning was the meaning of life. Now, this is somewhat contradictory with some of his other views, because, well, if someone were to adopt his philosophy here and say, well, the meaning of my life is to go and search for meaning and continuously try to search for meaning and look for meaning, well, now you're submitting to this idea. And therefore, in a way, you're also giving up your freedom, right? If you go by what he said, some of his other ideas. So there are lots of contradictions here. And I specifically wanted to mention Camus in this video because just like all of the other existentialists in many ways, he proposed some very interesting ideas to help one escape from the darkness of nihilism. They were interesting ideas, but fundamentally they were flawed and they don't really help the human being. One last thing I want to mention is that when he referred to the idea that if one was to adopt religion or a political position or a philosophy, and by doing so they would give to attain meaning, by doing so they will be giving up their freedom. Well, he sort of seems to suggest this in an arbitrary sense, that people are just picking the religion or the philosophy or the ideology that they want to pick. Well, it's not the case, because, well, at least not from the perspective of Islam, because Islam encourages one to make an informed decision about accepting Islam. It's not just the case you accept it. Yes, sure, there is an element of faith. There will always be, because God is not going to spoon feed you. He's not going to come in front of you and say, here I am, now believe in me and worship me. That defeats the purpose of this life, which is, or an aspect of it is, are you going to use the faculties you've been blessed with to come to the truth? But there is an element of rational inquiry here, which is that there is an encouragement to look at the evidences and the proofs that are there and then make an informed decision. So essentially what I'm saying is, when you become Muslim, or you accept Islam, or you accept to submit yourself to the will of God, there is an informed choice here. You look at the evidences, you reason upon it. Is there God? Is there good reasons to believe in God's existence? Are there good reasons to acknowledge and accept that the Quran is from God? And once you come to this conclusion based on the evidences and the proofs that are available, then you make an informed decision to submit. But even then, like I said, once you submit, that is a free choice, right? No one's compelling you to do this. God is not going to compel you to submit. And the actions you do following this, the actions where you are submitting yourself and doing what God has encouraged you to do, as opposed to not doing what other things, those are all free choices throughout. So anyway, I wanted to share these thoughts with you. And I guess I wanted to sort of mention this because, as time goes by, one thing that becomes apparent and evident is that more and more people are searching for meaning, looking for the meaning of life. And they are trying to find this in either they're going back to the existentialist philosophers, either they are making a concoction of existential philosophy and new age spiritual ideas, and through that they're trying to give themselves meaning. But at the end of the day, I'm still to come across a philosophy or an idea which is robust and comprehensive, that not only gives one meaning, but has the potential to stand firm as far as its ideas are concerned. And there are no contradictions. Aside from Islam, I have not yet come across any other philosophy, ideology, political view, or anything for that matter that is comprehensive enough to make sense of man, life, and the universe, provide meaning, and not contradict itself. If you have any ideas, any other sort of ideologies, philosophies that you want me to sort of look into or touch upon, please let me know in the comment section below. And I encourage people, look, if you're looking for meaning, if you're looking for purpose, then definitely look into Islam as well. I'll leave you guys with this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Till next time, take care. Assalamu alaikum.